Hello, my name is Georgia.
And I'm Olivia.
And welcome to Nurse Ratchet. Dun, 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 dun.
Cue music.
Yes. So today, Olivia, we're talking about Jack the Ripper.
Okay.
The motherfucking Ripper. The man, the mystery, the legend. Mm-hmm. Although we don't know any of that because they never found the cunt. But you know what? I thought we'd talk about Jack the Ripper because it's so up in the air about what kind of man he was, what profession he had in order to allow him to do these murders. But I think it's really interesting because one of the possibilities is that he had a medical background. Mm-hmm. So I thought that'd be interesting to go through. Just a full-on trigger warning, very graphic descriptions of mutilation to these women. Mm-hmm. So if that's something that you don't want to listen to, don't listen to this because it's real heavy, okay? You have been warned. So how much do you know about Jack the Ripper, Olivia?
Bit. I've read about him a lot over the years, especially as a child. I was
Have you? Yeah.
sort of fascinated by that sort of stuff in a way. Mm-hmm. I know that he killed multiple women, like would disembowel them and stuff, and they were usually discovered in their beds. I think
One was,
so he'd okay.
Yeah.
I thought he would break in and
only one. And that was like the worst of them.
That's probably the most famous one.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of photos.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jack the Ripper is one of the most infamous killers in history, not just because of what he did, but because no one ever proved who he was. In 1888, the East End of London became the hunting ground for a murderer who targeted vulnerable sex workers, killing them with a level of brutality that shocked even a society used to violence and poverty. 5 women, known as the canonical victims, were found murdered within a matter of weeks in Whitechapel in London, their bodies showing signs of severe mutilation and what many believed to be surgical precision. The name Jack the Ripper didn't come from police. It came from letters sent to the media, taunting authorities and feeding public fear. Whether those letters were truly from the killer or opportunistic hoaxes is still debated today. They think that probably one of them was because it was sent with a kidney. And the rest were fake. Okay. Yeah.
I want to look at photos now of the crime.
So why more than 130 years later do we still not have a definitive suspect? Well, because the investigation was a perfect storm of chaos. Victorian policing was fragmented and outdated. Whitechapel was overcrowded, poorly lit, and riddled with alleys where someone could vanish in seconds. Most of the victims were poor, transient women with few people advocating for them, and forensic science, as we know it, simply did not exist. No DNA fingerprint databases, no CCTV, just eyewitness accounts that often contradicted each other. Add to that political pressure, class prejudice, media sensationalism, and a flood of false confessions and suspects, and the case became a maze almost impossible to navigate. Over the decades, everyone from doctors and butchers to artists and royalty have been named as potential rippers, but no theory has ever crossed the line from compelling to conclusive. And that's what makes Jack the Ripper different from almost every serial killer we talk about. Not just the horror of the crimes, but the fact that he slipped into the fog of Victorian London and was never formally caught. So let's set the scene. Let's talk a little bit about Whitechapel. It wasn't some eerie, foggy Victorian aesthetic. It was one of the poorest and most overcrowded areas in London. And by the time the Ripper murders were happening, it was already a place people associated with crime, poverty, and desperation. The population had exploded due to large waves of immigration, particularly Jewish refugees fleeing persecution in Eastern Europe, along with Irish labourers and rural English workers looking for any kind of employment. So they all sort of migrated to the city. Housing couldn't keep up, so people ended up crammed into common lodging houses. These weren't hostels as we think of them now. They were filthy, dangerous, and packed. You could pay a few pennies just to sleep sitting up on a bench or on a rope strung across the room. So like they would pay like a cheaper fare to sit side by side on a wooden bench and they would hang a rope. You would just like be able to hang over it and sleep, because there was also, you could sit, pay for a seat on a bench, but you weren't allowed to lie down. Those two options when the beds were full. Isn't that crazy?
Jeez, okay.
Yeah. And this is interestingly where the term hangover is supposedly coined, because people would be so smashed all the time, drunk on gin. Many of the women living in Whitechapel survived through casual sex work, not because it was a chosen profession, but because it was often the only way to afford food or a bed for the night. Alcohol use was heavy, especially cheap gin, which was everywhere and often used as a way to dull hunger and stress. You know how it is. The area itself was physically miserable. Streets were narrow and poorly lit. Drainage was terrible and sewage frequently ran through the gutters, as you could imagine. There was also slaughterhouses and meat markets nearby, so the smell of blood and waste was part of daily life. How gross. Rats were common, as you can imagine, and diseases like tuberculosis and typhus spread easily through the overcrowded housing. You can kind of see how the Black Plague happened as well. Yeah.
Well, there's no sanitation practices, but that's because we didn't understand at the time.
Yeah.
Sterility, bacteria, infection, any of that stuff was just not a thing back then. Yeah, exactly. So now we know, so we try and keep sewage out of the main street.
Yeah. I mean, you would think it's so stinky. Like, they would, just for that reason alone, you would think, how can we avoid this?
Yeah, exactly.
There was also a lot of social tension. Whitechapel was heavily policed, but locals didn't trust authorities, and when the murders began, fear quickly turned into anger and paranoia. Immigrant communities were blamed, obviously, vigilante groups formed, and the streets felt increasingly unsafe, particularly for women. At night, the lack of proper lighting and the maze-like layout of back streets created ideal conditions for crime. It was easy to disappear, easy to go unseen, and very difficult for police to control effectively.
It's like Diagon Alley in Harry Potter.
Yes.
That's the image I get in my mind, yeah?
Except
dark, dirty,
very
disgusting, scary, dangerous.
When you think of dark, you think of like kind of dimly lit. But when I'm talking about dark in Whitechapel, London in the 1880s,
You need
I mean
a lantern to see.
pitch black dark.
Yeah.
Like there
There's
wasn't
nothing.
street lighting.
No,
lighting. There was
not
no
even
street
back
lighting.
then.
You
They
would,
didn't have lanterns in
you
the
would
street.
get around with your own light.
Yeah.
So a lantern, yeah.
That you got to hold, and if you don't have one.
Yep.
Or
all the
breaks.
houses were lit with candlelight or gas lanterns, and there was nothing outside. So it's like pitch black. If you are in an alleyway, you're fucked.
What about oil lamps?
Yeah, oil lamps. That's what I mean.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
gasoline or oil, whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
But not outside.
Yes, no, they weren't there yet.
Or very rarely. Like they might have one or two, but not many.
Take your own.
BYO lighting. So when people talk about Whitechapel as the perfect hunting ground for Jack the Ripper, it's not just dramatic language. It was an area where women were vulnerable, people were transient, and violence would happen without immediate intervention. Like people would see a woman getting attacked and they're like, well, she probably deserves it. Whatever.
Yeah. That's just how it was back then. No?
Yeah.
And they probably see it every single day. It's just like nothing new.
Yeah. So what's normally spoken about is Whitechapel, where the Ripper murders happened, but a lot of them actually happened in an area adjacent to Whitechapel called the Spitalfields. And Spital was actually a name for a type of hospital, like a charitable hospital, where they would take care of people who couldn't pay for medical care. So the fields east of the St Mary's Spital were where the Spitalfields got their name. And a lot of Ripper locations are in Spitalfields. So Dorset Street was where a lot of the lodging crimes were, and where a lot of the women that were killed by Jack the Ripper were on Dorset Street.
That's a very popular street now, isn't it?
I think so. It's well known. It's still called Dorset Street, yeah.
Yes.
It was considered one of the worst streets at the time and very dangerous.
I want to look it up now. So I'm looking up stuff as you tell me
Yeah,
this
no,
story
you're all good.
because I know the
You like a
story,
visual.
but exactly, I want to see what you're actually talking about. So what's it called?
Dorset.
Dorset.
Yeah, Dorset Street.
Oh, right. Oh, I spelled it totally wrong. Okay, yep.
Yep.
Continue.
Yeah, so the women of Whitechapel, I think we would do them a disservice if we didn't talk about their circumstances and how they came to be so horrifically murdered.
Yeah.
But in general, for many women in Whitechapel, sex work wasn't a profession chosen out of desire. Like I've said, it was a last resort shaped by poverty, gender inequality and social abandonment. Widows, abandoned wives and women whose husbands drank away what little money they earned. Jobs for women existed, but they were brutal, low-paid and unstable. laundry work, match factories, domestic service, or piecework, sewing, that paid pennies for hours and hours of labour. A woman could work all day scrubbing floors or stitching garments and still not earn enough to afford even the most basic lodging. Many lived in doss houses, where you paid by the night for a bed. And if you didn't have 4 pence by the evening, you slept on the street. Like, they were brutal about it too because of the overcrowding. Like, first come, first serve, and if you don't have the money, get the fuck out. And that's the cruel reality. The difference between a bed and the pavement was often a client. Sex work was not glamorous. It wasn't regulated. It was sometimes as simple as exchanging sex for a meal, a bed, or a few coins to avoid freezing overnight. Many women didn't even identify as full-time sex workers. They were casual, occasional sellers of sex, trying to bridge the gap between hunger and survival. But social stigma compounded everything. Once a woman was seen as fallen, respectable employment vanished. So even if you did just have sex with someone for money once, as a mean to an end to tide you over until the next consistent job, like if someone found out about that, you were fucked. You were never going to get a decent job ever again. So no safety nets, no welfare, no meaningful legal protection. If a husband died or disappeared, a woman could lose her home, income, and social standing overnight. Add in alcoholism.
Off to the asylum you go.
Yeah, but like it's more like the street. We don't give a fuck about you. Goodbye. Add in alcoholism, trauma, domestic violence, and a system that legally and culturally treated women as disposable, and the choices narrowed even further. So when we talk about the women of Whitechapel, it's important to understand this. They weren't reckless. They weren't immoral. They were trapped in a brutal economic reality where sex work was often the only immediate currency available to stay alive.
It's a terrible cycle.
So bad. And that vulnerability is exactly what Jack the Ripper hunted. You know what I mean? So now let's talk about the canonical 5 Jack the Ripper's victims. What are you looking up? You got pictures?
I'm looking at just the history of Dorset Street there.
Is it still Dorset Street? I think it is still. Yeah.
It is, but a lot of the original buildings were demolished and they're now
that's sad.
Factories. It's like the worst slum that was ever in existence in London.
Yeah.
Up to 50 men and 300 women and children every night would sleep there.
Yep. Crazy, right? And there were also places called workhouses, but they were basically like concentration camps.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't feed them, and it was basically like they would work for their stay sort of thing, but they barely got fed. Like it was really, really bad. People would fight. Like there was this job that they had where they would grind up animal bones for fertilizer.
Oh, yes. They still do that, don't they?
Yeah. But these people in the workhouses would do it, and their starvation got so bad that they would fight over the marrow from the bones. Isn't that disgusting?
I mean, look,
Poor
bone marrow
things.
is like really
nutritious for sure.
Yeah,
but it's like to be pushed to that level of desperation is so fucked. Gives you an idea.
Bone marrow.
Yeah,
bones.
Rotten meat, just any kind of anything on these bones.
I imagine, if you were a homeless prostitute back then, you were dumpster diving for most of your meals. Hey.
Yeah, you were just
scraps,
doing whatever you can,
or begging,
and
if you get
sex.
money, obviously from that.
A lot of sex
But
workers.
if you don't have enough money, then dumpster diving.
Yeah,
that's I'm reading about it here. It's very common back then.
And these women would walk around with everything they owned just on their person, and layers and layers of clothing because it got freezing at night. Yeah, and so people were desperate to get a bed, so they'll do whatever they could for it. So, canonical simply means officially accepted as the true or standard version. In plain terms, it's what experts agree counts as the core story. Because there was a bunch of murders in that time. A lot of people were killed and go missing, like regularly in those environments.
Yep.
But these had like a signature. They had Jack the Ripper signature on them, and they think that these 5 were by Jack the Ripper. These victims share clear patterns: late night or early morning attacks, extreme throat slashing, abdominal mutilation, and locations within a tight radius of Whitechapel and Spitalfields between August and November 1888. So here's who they were. The first victim was Mary Ann Nichols. She was killed on the 31st of August 1888. Mary Ann was also known as Polly as a nickname. She was 43 and had endured a life of instability. Widowed and separated from her children, she cycled through workhouses and lodging houses, struggling to survive.
That just must be such a struggle. Every single day is survival, and just wondering if you're going to eat that day, if you're going to be able to sleep somewhere that night.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine. That's flight mode. Yeah. You're constantly living in flight mode.
Yeah.
My God, that must be so just.
Yeah.
The anxiety, the stress, my God.
And that's why a lot of people were alcoholics, and they were addicted to the gin that was flowing freely available in that area.
Cheap, replaces food. Fills your stomach, puts you to sleep, makes the pain go away.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Everyone would carry a flask, wouldn't they? And they're all just sipping on gin all day. Yep.
On the night of her death, she had been drinking, likely hoping to find a bed or earn a few coins.
Oh, just trying to warm herself up, probably.
Yep. She was found in Bucks Row, now Durwood Street in Whitechapel, just before dawn. She was discovered by Charles Lechmere and Robert Paul Carman on their way to work.
Oh, God.
So, trigger warning. Her throat had been cut deeply and her abdomen was mutilated. She had struggled financially for years, drifting in and out of workhouses and lodging houses. Her murder is widely accepted as the first true Ripper killing. Mm-hmm. So the discovery scene was as follows. At approximately 3:40 a.m, Lechmere noticed what he thought was a tarpaulin or a bundle on the ground, because it's dark, remember. When he approached, he realised it was a woman lying on her back. On closer examination, her eyes were wide open, her skirt was slightly raised over her knees, and she was unresponsive. Mm-hmm. The men thought she was either very drunk, because that's a common occurrence, or dead, because the light was so low. Mm-hmm. They didn't see the degree of mutilation.
Yeah, she's just passed out drunk on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The men pulled her skirt down to hide her modesty and then alerted police constable John Neal, who arrived shortly after. I mean, that's nice, I guess.
I would have, you'd hope anyone would do that and not just leave them exposed there after they've been fucking murdered. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Dr. Rhys Ralph Lewin was called and confirmed death at the scene. He said, quote, "This woman's throat had been cut deeply from ear to ear. In fact, there were 2 distinct slashes to her throat, one that was 8 inches long and cut so deep that it cut the vertebrae.
Whoa.
All the tissues and vessels had been savaged in her throat. When the doctor felt her, her upper half was beginning to get cold, but her legs were warm, like it just happened.
Yeah, so like the blood's starting to pool.
Yeah, but she's still warm, yeah.
Yeah.
So they estimated she had been dead less than half an hour before they got there.
Really?
Yeah. And this is a common occurrence.
Pretty close and accurate estimation.
Yeah, they were pretty, in some things they were quite onto it.
Yeah.
Besides the gaping and obvious neck wound that they saw, there was a hidden and rather large and very jagged gash on the lower side of her left abdomen. Her intestines were literally spilling out of this wound. The abdomen had been cut open from the centre of the bottom of the ribs along the right side as well. Under the pelvis to the left of the stomach, another jagged wound.
So sort of autopsy-ish like?
Yeah. Yep. The omentum or fatty membrane, which covers the front of the stomach, was cut in several places, and there were 2 small stab wounds on the vagina. Immediately, they thought that this weapon was a blade around 6 to 8 inches long, and they believed it would have been something like a shoemaker's knife.
There's a photo of they believe it is the real knife that was used by Jack the Ripper. And I actually...
How would they know that?
DNA evidence, because so earlier this year I just found out that they believe they've matched the DNA.
The DNA? To a scarf. I have heard that.
There's male and female DNA on it, and they have traced through lineage his family. His name is here, Aaron Kosminski.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what was his profession?
Suspect. He was a barber.
Yeah, yep.
Scissors, shit like that.
Yeah, I'm not convinced.
No. I'm not either, because I was just reading here. It says it's 100% match.
I doubt it.
They're trying to get an inquest done.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, do that.
So it was a bloodstained shawl that was said to have been found on Miss Edo's body in 1888, which was purchased at an auction in 2007 by Mr. Edwards.
Okay.
Later found to have the DNA of both the victim and Kosminski.
Well,
and
she was
the
a
only
fucking prostitute
DNA on there. Yeah, right.
She was a prostitute.
That's so true.
And they walked around with all their clothes on their person all the time.
It's not like they were showering either.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
so it could have been any man that she'd slept with.
It's just interesting, this 100% match that they say they have. So this is a photo of the knife that they believe he used.
That's gnarly.
This is at a museum, yeah?
Wow.
You can see
that
they
is
have
6 to 8 inches.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Just as you
that's
said that, I was
crazy.
like, oh, I'll tell her I've seen the photo.
Knife. Very big.
That looks like a flaying knife. Like
Yes.
something that you can strip the skin, the muscle,
Yep.
the fat, yeah.
Yep. A shoemaker's knife. Is that what that is? Nah, surely not. Maybe. 6 to 8 inches. I don't get it.
Here?
To cut the
just
leather.
say the knife allegedly used by Jack the Ripper at a 2008 exhibition in London. That's all it says.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Anyway, she was laid right out in the open and also right under the windows of 2 women who were Mrs. Green and Mrs. Purkis, who were both home, and at least one of them was awake at the time of the murder, and nobody heard anything. So this killer must have been fast and must have been efficient to sever the windpipe so quickly.
No.
So that she couldn't scream and to render her silent while he mutilated her.
Yeah.
So all the mutilations, thankfully, were post-mortem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they don't think there was any chance that they were still sort of...
Alive. If they were, they couldn't scream.
Well, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, was that his whole intention? So that they can have some sort of awareness while he's disemboweling them.
Yeah,
but then
who knows?
obviously they're dying because he slashed
They would
their
be able to
throat.
tell from the way the wounds either bled or didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of the blood is just from the neck and not so much from the other wounds.
Interesting.
The scene suggests rapid incapacitation followed by post-mortem abdominal mutilation. The location, a dark, narrow street with limited foot traffic, allowed a brief window for the offence. So then on the 8th of September, 1888, Annie Chapman was discovered. She was 47 and had suffered through domestic abuse, poverty, and chronic unemployment. Her survival had often depended on casual sex work. Annie was discovered in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street in the Spitalfields. So someone's backyard.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Just dumped there. Wow.
She was discovered by John Davis, a resident of the property. At around 6 a.m, Davis went to the backyard and found Chapman lying near the steps of the lodging house yard. Her position and extensive injuries were immediately apparent. I suppose the sun's coming up by then.
Yeah.
Police and Dr. George Bagster Phillips arrived shortly after.
What time is this in the morning?
6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Daylight's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The crime scene shocked investigators due to its severity and precision. She was lying on her back, her hands were raised, and her face was so covered in blood, as well as her hands. Her legs were bent with her knees facing out and her feet on the ground. So kind of like you would do if you're getting like a vaginal examination.
Did he rape?
No, just mutilated their parts.
Yeah.
No, he never assaulted them in that way.
I was reading that he took some uteruses and
Yes,
kidneys.
he did. We'll get to that. So her legs were bent with her knees facing out and her feet were on the ground.
Sorry, one more thing. This is very hatred and jealousy and anger towards women,
Yes.
isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Very
It was definitely misogynistic.
rage-fueled
Yep.
murders.
Definitely.
Direct, and prostitutes, of course, deliberately picked them. And I feel like by removing the uterus, it's like he's trying to de-womanize them as much as possible, defeminize them,
He also
everything.
took other things.
Yes, I know. I haven't read. I'll let you.
I'll tell it to you if you just fucking wait.
I'll just shut up. Sorry, I'm getting excited because
Yeah,
I'm looking at
it's
all these
interesting.
photos and I'm like, yeah, okay, I haven't looked at this shit since I was a kid, and now like it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Hearing you talk about it.
So her coat and her skirt, both black, had been pulled up to expose her body, and they were soaked in blood, and she had been completely and brutally disemboweled. This is rough. The police report said, quote, small intestines and flap of the abdomen lying on right side above shoulder, attached by a cord with the rest of the intestines inside the body.
Oof.
Yeah, woof. 2 flaps of skin from the lower part of the abdomen laying in a large quantity of blood above the left shoulder. Throat cut deeply from left and back in jagged manner right around the throat. Her throat was cut so deeply and so brutally that the killer had almost removed her head from her body.
When they say jagged manner, do they mean that he was slicing Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like back forth.
Yeah, so not just one swift motion.
I think that he would have initially, and then I think they say with this victim he was attempting to remove the head, so he would be sawing at some point.
Sawing, okay.
Yeah. And they say he meant to remove the head, he just didn't have time. Because they said yeah, I know.
out of time.
Yeah, because they said he literally grinded into the vertebrae in the neck. So he was trying to separate those bones for sure. Yep. The coroner's report read, quote, "The abdomen had been entirely laid open and the intestines severed from their mesenteric attachments, which had been lifted out and placed on the shoulder of the corpse, whilst from the pelvis, the uterus and its appendages, with the upper portion of the vagina and the posterior 2/3 of the bladder had been entirely removed in one."
Okay,
Isn't that
this
crazy?
is not a hairdresser.
This is not a butcher. Well, it could be a butcher, but this is not a fucking barber. This man...
This is someone who has precise,
yes,
bloody skills with his hands and
knows where the organs lay as well.
Yes, and how to disconnect them in
From
such
the
a
mesentery.
way. Yes.
Obviously,
this is a...
yeah.
This,
This is
a
someone with
doctor
at least
surgeon.
anatomical knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, the work was that of an expert, or by at least someone who'd such knowledge of anatomical or pathological examinations as to be enabled to secure the pelvis organs with one sweep of the knife.
Yeah.
That's what the coroner said. Yeah. Because this happened in a matter of minutes, an entire hysterectomy in very low light. They're thinking around 15 minutes. How long does a hysterectomy take in the operating room, Olivia?
Oh, well, it depends if it's partial or total, but like an hour?
Well, this was total, so how long would a total take?
An hour
Yeah.
if all goes well.
45 to an hour.
But laparoscopically, it could be even longer, an hour and a half.
Yeah, and
If
I
they're
suppose...
having a bit of trouble grabbing things.
Yeah. The murder weapon was determined to be a knife that was likely long at around 6 to 8 inches and very sharp. They thought the same thing for Mary Nichols. So, yeah, heavy stuff, isn't
So
it?
look, I can totally understand how you could do a total hysterectomy in under 5-10 minutes on a dead person.
But like
Right.
that precise? You have to move things in order to get to the fucking...
Yeah, but if they're not living or breathing
Yeah.
and you're in a hurry...
Yeah, yep. But
I
he
feel
was
like
so
I could
precise
understand.
about removing the pelvic block. He removed all of those organs in one. You would have to fucking know
Where
how-
they join.
where they join.
Yeah.
And it's not like they all look different. It all looks fucking simpler. It's all pink and squishy. That's
It's
all
like
it
he
is.
wanted to keep them all connected in one piece for
Yes.
some reason.
Yeah.
Why
but
though?
he probably wanted efficiency, and he probably knew in order to get the uterus
you're
out,
right.
he just needed to go
And then you can take what he really wants after.
yeah. And he knew to cut the mesentery to get the organs out, the intestines out. Like he precisely just went on the mesentery in order to release the intestines. So yeah, interesting. So then there was a double event, which means 2 murders in one night. And that was Elizabeth Stride.
Little spree.
Yeah, and so the first woman was Elizabeth Stride. So this happened on the 30th of September 1888. Well, they think it was because he was interrupted and he didn't get his kick.
I've heard of this.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
One was
yes.
mutilated, one wasn't. So the
Yes.
first one was Elizabeth Stride,
Didn't
and she
get to
wasn't
finish.
mutilated. Yep. So,
Fucking asshole.
I know. He wanted to get his hit or whatever that was. So she was 44, a Swedish immigrant known as Long Liz. She faced isolation and hardship. She had separated from her husband and lived hand to mouth in Whitechapel. You know, common story for all of them. So she was found in Dutfield's Yard, Berners Street. It's now known as Henrique Street. She was discovered by Louis Diemschitz. Diemschitz. Anyway, he was a steward of the International Working Men's Educational Club. So at approximately 1 a.m, he drove his cart into the yard where his horse became unsettled by something blocking his entrance. The horse wouldn't walk anymore and it was like pulling to one side, clearly trying to avoid something. Pitch black darkness, remember. He lit a match because it was literally pitch black and discovered Stride lying on the ground. He went and fetched others with more light and they found that this woman had her throat violently slashed. There was blood all over the ground and pavement beneath her. They estimated about 2 quarts had flowed through the door of a nearby club. She was still warm and had likely just been killed moments before. The cause of death was listed as violent hemorrhage from severance of blood vessels in the neck by a sharp instrument. She was not mutilated any further, and they believe that this was because Jack the Ripper was interrupted by the horse and cart. Crazy, right? The incision of the neck commenced on the left side, 2.5 inches below the angle of the jaw, and almost in a direct line with it, it nearly severed the vessels on that side. So he does do a behind...
Yeah.
one swift cut,
Thought so.
right? And then when he wants to mutilate him, he does a bit of a jagged kind of
Okay.
thing. So the lack of further injuries supports the theory that the killer was interrupted. Her murder occurred the same night as Catherine Eddowes, a rare double killing, often called the double event. Catherine Eddowes was 46, had a life marked by poverty, alcohol, and social abandonment. She had few friends and relied on casual sex work to survive. Less than an hour after Stride, Catherine's body was found in Mitres Square in the city of London.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wait for it. She was discovered by Police Constable Edward Watkins at 1:30 a.m. Mm-hmm. He was walking his normal beat and he walked directly through Mitre Square at 1:30. Nothing was out of the ordinary. But 14 minutes later, at around 1:44 a.m, he loops back around to walk the same beat, and this time when he passed through, he immediately saw a woman lying on her back on the ground. So in 15 minutes, he'd done this, right? Mm-hmm. So we know a time frame. He used his lantern light, and when he shone it over her, it was clear that she had been brutally murdered. Her clothing was intentionally and aggressively cut open to expose her entire body. She was soaked from head to toe in blood. Her torso had been eviscerated, cut open from rectum to sternum.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not groin to sternum.
Yeah.
Rectum to
Full
sternum.
split. Jesus.
Crazy. Dr. Frederick Gordon Brown was called to examine the body. Quote, her intestines were slashed and cut. A 2-foot piece of intestine was laid on the ground, cut out of her body and laid on the ground next to her between her body and her arm. Another larger piece of the intestines was draped over her right shoulder. And if you remember Annie Chapman, same thing, draped over her shoulder. Mm-hmm. A clear connection there. Now she had a deep laceration across her throat and her face was slashed several times. The killer had also cut through part of her right ear, like cut it off. Mm-hmm. And they later found it hidden in her clothing when they took her clothes off. 2 police officers showed up after their call for assistance. One of them was PC James Harvey. Harvey showed up and he was shocked, not only just at the scene in front of him, but because he had actually walked to Mitre Square at 1:40 and had seen nothing. This would mean Harvey was literally within yards while Jack was murdering this woman and heard nothing and saw nothing. Mm-hmm. So 2 cops walking around there. That must give you a picture of how fucking dark it is.
Yeah.
And how silently he does this. Mm-hmm. Dr. Frederick Gordon Brown, the city surgeon, was called to the scene at 2 a.m. He noted that she appeared to not have been raped and she was still very warm. But, how could you fucking figure out that she'd not been raped if she was cut from fucking rectum to sternum?
Right. And also because there's no semen doesn't mean that.
Yeah. Not that they could test for that, really.
No.
Such a weird thing to say. Anyway, she was wearing many layers of clothing because people in those days just walked around carrying everything they owned. Most of it had been cut right through and was bloody on all the edges, which meant, again, it tells you how sharp that knife was to cut through all of that, layers and layers of clothing and to, open the abdomen. That shit must have been sharp as fuck.
Yes.
Dr. Brown performed the autopsy, but present to observe the whole thing was Dr. George William Sakira, Dr. Phillips and Dr. William Sanders. Now, when he began the examination, he noticed that both eyelids had been sliced open, vertically. The left one had a 1/4-inch slice through the lower lid and the right was sliced all the way through. There was also a very deep laceration that began at the bridge of her nose and extended across her right cheek to her jaw. It had cut down to the bone in her face. Jeez. The tip of her nose was sliced off. Oof. And the upper lip was also cut in half, down to the gum, which was sliced underneath it. Her mouth was sliced at the right side of it up to her cheek, like a smiling sort of, whatever they call it. And both of her cheeks underneath her eyes had little triangular cuts that the skin flapped over, very deliberate cuts. Triangles under her eyes, which was not seen in any of the other ones. The cut to the abdomen and completely eviscerated her was jagged and described as a zigzag in a possible attempt to avoid the belly button. That's what they do in autopsies to avoid splitting the navel in half.
Wow.
This indicates that it could possibly be someone who performed an autopsy before and their muscle memory causes them to eviscerate like that because they've been doing it like that for years. Mm-hmm. And to make it even more suspicious that this was someone with at least a medical background, they had also removed her left kidney, cleanly sliced, out of its capsule. Dr. Brown said he believed this was definitely someone with knowledge of anatomy and dissection because they had to know where the kidney was located, first of all. They're not in the front. Mm-hmm. They're in the back. Yeah. Part of her uterus was also removed again, another uterus removed, and the killer took these 2 things with him. Mm-hmm. Her vagina and rectum had been lacerated and stabbed. The killer had sliced the right thigh up to the labia and separated that as well to create one big flap of skin.
Jesus.
Isn't that crazy?
Nice.
The pancreas and spleen were also lacerated and stabbed. Like the others.
Got to get every single fucking organ.
Yes. It's like such a rage because he couldn't finish like the first one.
Yeah, right.
So he like really went to town on the second one.
That just reminds me of Ted Bundy and how he went on his 4-in-a-day spree.
Yep.
Because he knew that they were coming for him.
Yep.
So he had to get his final kicks in.
Last hurrah.
Oh my God. 4 of them, not just one.
Yeah. Like the others, she had died from the hemorrhage of the severed carotid artery, and everything else was done post-mortem, thank God. This site, while it was very open, was poorly lit, offering concealment. The precise timing between patrols indicates the offender understood police movement patterns and was very quick in his evisceration. Mm-hmm. It's fucking wild, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's really giving doctor to me.
Yeah.
Or at least
Pathologist.
a coroner pathologist. Yeah. So the next victim, Mary Jane Kelly, 9th of November in 1888. So this is the gnarly one. This is the one where she was killed in her room.
Yes, I'm looking at her photo right now.
Yeah. So she was 25, so she was the youngest, and she lived alone in a rented room on Miller's Court, Dorset Street. So that gnarly, very dangerous street. Mary Jane was the final and most horrific of the canonical victims. So hold on to your flaps, guys, because this is fucked. She was murdered indoors in her room at Miller's Court on Dorset Street. Unlike the others who were killed in public or semi-public spaces, Kelly's murder allowed the killer privacy, resulting in extreme bodily destruction. She was discovered by Thomas Boyer, who was sent by her landlord, John McCarthy, to collect overdue rent. At 10:45 a.m, when no one answered when he knocked, he looked into the broken window and saw the horrific scene. He saw 2 giant heaps of blood and flesh sitting on the bedside table, and on the bed was the mutilated human form of Mary Jane Kelly. He ran to get the landlord, who came to the scene and immediately called the police. Dr. Phillips noted that the carotid artery was likely what killed her immediately, but he could not say for sure because blood was everywhere. It was all over the walls, it was all over the bed, it was all over the sheets and the floor. It was soaking a 2-foot radius on the floor next to the bed. She had clearly been moved while bleeding heavily as well, which was interesting. Another interesting thing was the fire was blazing in the fireplace, and there were remnants of her clothing and other things in the fire. Mary Jane was found wearing a chemise of some sort around what was left of her shoulders. Like you can see very, very thin piece of fabric.
It's a colorized photo of her.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. Looking at the photo, you can see her left arm is bent and her hand is placed inside the hollowed-out cavity of her abdomen. Her right arm was said to be lying on the bed next to her. Both of her arms were cut haggardly in many places. Her legs were placed wide open and her knees bent out on extreme angles. The thighs were literally non-existent. They were just bone. The flesh and muscles were carved away completely, as was that of the abdomen. The abdomen was disemboweled completely, and both of her breasts were carved off her chest, down to the chest plate. One of them was placed under her own head, and the other one was placed at her feet.
Weird.
So weird. Do you need to have a biscuit?
Yeah.
Yeah, eat something while we're describing this mutilation.
I'm so hungry.
Just describing this horrific scene and she's eating.
Oh, I'm starving.
Classic nurse.
I'm looking at the photos too.
Yeah, I know.
Brutal.
It's crazy. We're almost done. Wrap it up.
Yep.
Right.
Ready.
On to more mutilation. Her ears, mouth, nose and cheeks were slashed and carved to essentially ground meat. Love that description. Yep. It was really bad. Her neck was torn open, severed in several places, almost completely removing her head from her body. The entirety of her vagina was completely torn apart and removed. The left thigh was carved to the bone, and only the femur was left down to her knee. Mm-hmm. Her calves were also hacked apart. All the flesh and muscle removed from all of these areas had been heaped in a pile on her bedside table. It's just so horrible. Her liver was also placed between her 2 feet. Her spleen was on the bed next to her body on the left side, and her intestines were completely removed and placed next to her on the right side. Wow. So weird. It's almost satanic, isn't it? Like a ritual. Her kidneys and uterus were removed, and they were put with her other breast under her head. Anyway. What? Wow.
So she's sleeping on her own pillows or something?
I don't know.
What the fuck?
It's so, I don't know. Like it seems symbolic to me, but I don't know what it's supposed to represent.
Yeah.
Even more symbolic, the heart had been removed, like carefully taken out, and it was nowhere to be found. So he took it with him. The time of death was estimated between 3 and 4 a.m. because witnesses said that they had seen Mary Jane Kelly at 2 a.m. on the night she died. The privacy of a locked room allowed for prolonged post-mortem activity, reinforcing the theory of ritualised behaviour and compulsion. And he had more time to just take his time with it, didn't he? He had privacy, he didn't have to worry about anyone coming along. Examining the injuries gives us chilling clues about the killer. He struck quickly, incapacitating his victims with deep throat cuts, then performed post-mortem abdominal mutilations, precise, controlled and consistent. Organs were sometimes removed, indicating familiarity with anatomy, though not necessarily formal medical training. The escalation in mutilation suggests growing confidence and desensitisation. And the selection of streets and alleys points to someone intimately familiar with Whitechapel. From these patterns, experts have hypothesised about the Ripper's likely profession. So the first one is butcher or slaughterhouse worker. Familiarity with cutting through flesh and organs, comfort handling knives, efficiency in post-mortem removal. What do you think about that? It's plausible, isn't it? Except animals are have different anatomy, you know?
Yes, but it's all the structures. They have momentum. They have all the joins between their organs and stuff like that.
Yeah, true.
There's one surgeon I work with who's also a vet.
Oh, really?
Yes, I've worked with him at the private hospital many times. He's a fully qualified vet and veterinary surgeon, and he is also a human plastic surgeon.
Interesting.
Yep.
I did not know this.
Crazy how he went to uni twice to become a doctor.
What was he
twice.
first? I suppose he was a vet first.
Yes, and then he decided he wanted to branch out.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, he was a really cool guy. Yeah.
So the other option is surgeon or medical student. Knowledge of internal anatomy, ability to perform precise incisions under pressure. Like to do it very quickly and under pressure. Yeah, I think that's really plausible. But I am leaning a little bit more towards the butcher slaughterhouse, you know, because they have those big fucking knives too. A surgeon wouldn't have that, would they?
No, they would have to find one.
Yeah, but they
Not
would
that
have
that
it.
would be that difficult though to find buy a knife in London
butcher's
in
knife.
the 1800s.
Yeah. So, and then the third option is other knife skilled trades, fishmongerer, tanner, leather worker, capable of controlled cuts, though less likely to explain the organ removal and, you know, the knowledge of anatomy. So I don't think that's very plausible in my humble opinion. The killer's silence and efficiency suggested someone used to performing delicate tasks under pressure who could move through Whitechapel at night without raising alarm. He chose locations with partial concealment, understood patrol patterns, and struck with terrifying confidence. I wonder how we know he knew patrol patterns, just because he's probably on the street all the time, maybe.
Yeah, he's just watching them.
Yeah. Despite eyewitnesses, letters, and modern profiling, the Ripper's identity eludes historians. He exploited poverty, targeted vulnerable women, and disappeared into the fog of Victorian London, leaving a question mark over history that may never be answered. And that is the horrific tale of Jack the Ripper. Oh, that was a lot.
Very nice.
That was a lot. There are pictures and sketches on Google if you're brave enough.
Yes.
If you're brave enough. I don't know whether Instagram would allow us to put that on our page.
Look at this. This is a police sketch.
Yeah. Maybe sketches would be allowed. I don't know.
Yeah, well, most of them are really
Who's
sketches.
that? Catherine Evados?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, wow. Imagine just discovering that, just fully dressed with your fucking abdomen wide open.
Yep.
Wowzers. Very sad situation for women in 1800s London, Whitechapel.
There's also 2 more rapes and murders that they potentially link to him, but they're not sure.
There's a lot of speculation about other murders, but the canonical 5 are the 5, like they're 100% sure it was connected, you know, but other things like sort of deviate from his signature.
Yeah. This other lady had a blunt object inserted into her vagina, which ruptured her peritoneum.
Yes.
And she was,
She was a survivor and she walked to the fucking hospital and then died the next day.
Yeah.
But they don't think that's necessarily connected. He never inserted things into the vagina.
Yeah, okay. True.
Pretty horrible.
Could have been just a regular run-of-the-mill rape.
Yep. And then there was the letters. I didn't go into them because I was like, don't want to make it too long, but I wanted to sort of specify or amplify the knowledge of anatomy and how it could be a medical person.
Yes.
I think it's likely.
Yeah.
But I think it's very plausible for a butcher because like they were everywhere around Whitechapel. There was lots of meat houses.
Also could have been a failed medical student.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Spitalfields, lots of hospitals there. So it could have been that too, like the proximity
Someone
of it all.
experimenting.
Yep.
Who wasn't actually maybe a doctor or a surgeon fully,
Yep.
but was, yeah.
Yeah, and it could have been some sort of autopsy tech as well.
Yeah.
Coroner.
Who knows?
Anyone? Imagine if it was the coroner actually doing the postmortems. That would be sick and twisted.
Yeah, it would be.
Anyway.
All right, well, thanks, Georgia, for sharing
No
about
worries.
the Ripper named Jack.
Yes. Self-proclaimed, apparently, called himself
Definitely
Jack.
dead now, isn't he? Yeah.
Definitely. And like I said, some people thought it was with the Murder Castle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I
No
mentioned
way. Wasn't
that.
he
Murder
later
Castle
on?
guy, H.H. Holmes.
Wasn't he later on?
No, it was around the same time. And they just reckon he jumped on a boat and went to America and just...
Yeah.
But, like, he didn't really murder people in that way.
No,
No.
not at
It's
all.
just a theory.
Yes.
I don't know. Anyway,
The MO is totally different, right?
if you've got a Jack the Ripper theory, please let us know. Put it in the comments section of Spotify or email it to us. We would love to hear it and we'd love to read it out.
Yes.
If you want these episodes early, please subscribe and you will have access to the following week early. And we'll see you in the next one. Love
Bye.
yous. Bye.
Sorry, that was waiting.
I just said,
Oh,
I
fuck,
ruined-
it's the Indian.
No, don't waft it this way. Fucking hell, girl.
Go stand over
Jesus
there.
Christ.
Go stand over there straight away.
Moving.